George Savage, and here, Stephen Sunny.
Here.
Ken Lee.
Here.
Chris Riddler is going to be calling in, but not, he's officially absent. Michelle.
Hey, I'm here if you can hear, people.
Mark Wakeson.
Here.
All right, so we have 6 and 7 here, and potentially we'll hear from Chris, although, I remember the call. Michelle, acting secretary today. Are there any oral communications writing on the agenda? And I have a hand up from Karen Blanca online. Karen, please.
The audio is very echoey, and I would just suggest that we have only one person speaking clearly into whatever device you're speaking into, because it's almost impossible to hear. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, George, this is Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. Just wanted to let you know that I'm here, and I support the prior comment that it's very echoey.
Okay. This is where somebody has open mics, maybe on their computer, because I got my mic off, but I'm hearing myself echo through.
I'm not plugging the call.
Okay. Somebody has an open mic. Anyone who's connected here in the room?
Are you connected? Here.
I am connected.
Yeah, just turn off your speaker.
Well, my speaker is off.
Mute the mic. There we go. No? Well, there's an open mic somewhere, and we're not hearing any of the people on Zoom except locally over my speaker now, not over the schoolhouse.
Did you hear me?
I am. And my mic's off here. This is weird.
No, this is not muted.
That sounded good.
So you guys can only hear me when I'm on my laptop speaker, microphone, apparently.
That sounds very good.
Okay. Well, we may have to go from that, but the problem is you'd only be able to hear me, not anyone else. So I don't know that will work. Let me just look into
Schoolhouse is as I'm thinking this may be a separate computer here from this. And maybe we have to test. No, that they can't hear us. That's only local here. So like I don't see this the historic school. Yeah. Is basic. Yeah. Okay.
But I turned on the microphone for this, so we should be hearing. Speaker. So that's the word. We can hear the speaker.
Yeah, I think that computer may be on a different, maybe a separate connection.
There's still like there.
That's. Yeah, absolutely. There is a microphone. This is the mic.
Yeah, it's still kind of tiny.
And just so everyone understands, we have a computer in the schoolhouse logged into the Zoom, but we're trying to get the schoolhouse main system logged into the Zoom, and it was programmed with the wrong link. So we're working that out. So again, apologies for the technical delays, but we are resolving it as quick as we can. I think you all should be able to hear me now. We should be.
You're loud and clear.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, that took a while, but we're finally fixed. All right. So we will try this again. We just to catch everyone up, we did the roll call. 6 of 7 members are here. Chris Rittler is a member of the public tonight since he's remote. And we have moved to item 2, oral communications for items not on the agenda. Karen Vatra had her hand up and no one could hear her, so we're going to try this again. Karen, would you like to speak to us?
My only comment was about the audio, so
Okay, we fixed that.
yes.
Okay, great. And anyone else with things not on the agenda? Okay, seeing nothing, we'll move on to 3. There are no announcements or presentations right now, which takes us to item 4, approval of the minutes. Our last meeting was back in the halcyon days of summer, August 26, 2025. Everyone should see the meeting minutes, draft minutes in their packet. Do I have any comments? And if not, a move to approve. Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are adopted. We will move on now to new business. And the first business is the election of the committee chair for 2026. I was informed last month that the town has a policy that chairs should only serve for 2 years, and then we should definitely rotate. I've been in the seat for 2 years, and I'm very excited about the prospect of someone else doing this for a while, and wonder if anyone would volunteer to do this before you make your decision. You will get this fantastic seat here in the center of the dais. You'll have this very hefty gavel that you can make noise with, and all the power and authority that comes with the position. So I'm wondering if anyone is willing to step up and be chair this coming year. And this is just not right. All right, no one. Mark, you'd be really good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, it's all up to the town council about these kind of matters. So I won't refuse, but I can't do this forever.
Hey, George, we can only hear your audio, so if there's any dialogue there, it was lost on the audience.
Okay, all right. All right, no one's willing to do it this year? Is that fair? Okay, well, I guess, someone could move to reappoint me and then, second that, and we can vote on it.
I move that George Savish be reappointed as chair of the Finance Committee.
I enthusiastically second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm abstaining. Opposed? Thank you. All right. So with the approval of town council, I'll keep doing it for another year. Sure. Okay. That didn't go as planned. Let's see. So if we'll then move on to substance of the meeting, and we'll begin with item B, which are interim financial statements for the audit, 2022-23 audit. I'll just start things out by mentioning that we were hoping to have the audit ready at this point. But instead, there are a few items pending, so I'd ask Tony to comment on what's still left to do, and then we can lead into a discussion of the financial statements as they exist right now, where we are on the audit, and when we're likely to wrap it up. And then of course, we can have discussion with members of the public weighing in and also the committee. So Tony.
Thank you, George. So part of the delay is there are two GASB pronouncements that, well, one was our OPEB valuation. The report came back, the beginning number for 23 didn't tie to the ending number of 22. So there's a data entry error in the valuation. So that's being recalculated. The second item is there's a new pronouncement for fiscal year 22-23. It's subscriptions based. It's called SPIDA. Basically, we have to calculate all the subscriptions that we have and calculate the payments over a number of years and then determine whether at the end of that there's a transfer of asset ownership or it's a liability. Christian Company did significant work for us on this. We've turned everything over to the auditors. They're currently reviewing it. So those two adjustments have not been completed yet. So that's why we don't have the full financial statement. But I wanted to present interim financial statements, the fund financial statements, which are basically the end results for all the town's funds for this fiscal year, showing the net change in fund balance for our major funds, our non-major governmental funds, and our custodial funds, just to show that, yes, there is progress going towards the audit, and we should have, hopefully, these adjustments wrapped up for the next meeting in February.
Tony, quick question. Were these GASB pronouncements as of fiscal year 23, or are they subsequent to 23?
The SPIDA one is as of 22-23. That was the year that it was to take effect, or the year to be implemented.
Okay, so what I would propose that we do is if anyone has any clarifying questions about the interim financials for the 2022-23 audit, ask those now. Then we can hear from the public about any discussion on the financial statements, and then we can move to questions.
I was going to go through.
Oh, you're going to go through.
I was going to go through.
Yeah,
so,
please. That's perfect. That's even better. Thank you.
So this presentation, we're going to review the interim financial statements and then move on to the mid-year budget update, which is the second item. So looking at the interim financial statements of the major funds, the town has four major funds, and that's the general fund, the open space fund, the inclusionary in lieu, or known as the Affordable Housing Fund, and Measure A. And these funds meet the criteria where they're 10% of overall fund activity and 5% within the major fund category. This is 2022-23. So as you can see, the first column is the general fund, and we're projecting a reduction of 1.3 million, and that was primarily due to the use of consultants and legal attorneys in regards to the housing element update, and this was the first year of that. Open space is a $483,000 increase. Affordable housing, there was a fee assessed that year, so the overall went up $760,000. Measure A sales tax, overall increase of 47,000. And then the other governmental funds are basically all the other funds combined into one column, and that's how they're presented in the financial statements. And looking at the non-major funds, it's our special revenue funds, our capital project funds. Some of our special revenue funds include the public safety sales tax and our COPS grant. We have the gas tax, our library fund, Measure M, which is a motor vehicle fee, and then Measure W, which is a sales tax. And then we have the open space remnant for Frog Pond and the ARPA fund. Those are special revenue funds for this fiscal year. And then for capital projects, we have the Park and Loo Fund, grants, and our capital projects fund. And overall fund balances at the end of the year for these funds was 2.7 million. Total revenues of a little bit over 1, total expenditures a little bit over 1, but the transfers in and out was a net increase of 409,000, which created the net change in fund balances of almost 472,000. And this is the balance sheet for our interim financial statements, all including the major funds and the non-governmental funds, or non-major funds, excuse me. As you can see, the total fund balance for the general fund is 3.8 million. Open space is a little bit over 8 million. Affordable housing is 4.5 million. Measure A is almost 800,000, and other governmental funds is 2.7 million. Yeah.
Just a quick question. Why does the general fund assets and liabilities and fund balances balance?
Excuse me?
The total assets under general. is
Ew.
Less than
They don't balance.
so okay.
Oh,
I didn't know.
I'm sorry. That is a typo. I apologize. Yep. I'll need to make a correction there. But it should be 5 million as the total liabilities and fund balance.
Something's going on the asset side then.
Yeah. I'll need to review that. So for the road maintenance districts, those are our custodial funds. We, as the town, act as the custodian of these funds. They're not town funds. Basically, the road maintenance districts control these. All we do is collect the money and spend the money when the road maintenance districts need any repairs done. And these are all, we have 5 road maintenance districts. For 22-23, we had 5. Crescent Road, PB Ranch, Wayside 1 and 2, and the Woodside Highlands Road Maintenance District. What's the?
I think it's the unassigned.
Okay. Okay. And then looking at the balance sheet, total assets is 862,000 with total liabilities of 862,000. We do not carry a fund balance with these funds, so it's either all activity is then closed into the deposit account because it's due back to the residents of each municipal district or maintenance district, excuse me. And then last but not least is our customer deposits fund. This is a for that fund all the project applicant work with housing redevelopment and other building and planning items. For 22-23, we took in over $1 million in deposits and spent almost 661,000. So the net increase was almost 431,000. So looking at total assets, it's a little bit over a million. We have 865,000 in cash, accounts receivable of 187,000. And then looking at liabilities, 71,000 in accounts payable and 981,000 in refundable deposits. That's the issue.
It's not as simple as the unassigned or something
Okay.
else going on.
Okay. Okay, so that's a review of the interim financial statements. So if anybody has any questions?
My understanding is that the affordable housing issues, usually that's zero. So I guess in this year, in the year of 2023, it was a rather large number. Is that, am I correct that that often is very small amounts? And
In regards to like the fee that's being, yeah, it's not a regular, they're very infrequent when when a fee is assessed, but there was one for 22, 23.
okay. And also I noticed that under, it was a small number, but the library had a negative cash.
Yes.
I was trying to get my head around that. Does
Yes.
that mean that's a liability?
That means there's a receivable that still needs to be billed, and we'll receive we will receive them. We would have received the money in 23, 24.
Okay. So that was a general ledger entry.
Yeah, it's just a timing entry.
Thank you.
Any other clarifying questions before I open it to public?
Yeah, you may have done it, Tony, but I don't have the correct numbers. Were you able to update where we stand against our reserve policy? I know you don't normally do it at this point in the year necessarily, but did you happen to do it at the end of December?
Yeah, I did not, but this would have been the first year we would have fallen below the policy. And this is when we should have been having discussions about long-term planning to address the decrease in the reserve. So it would have been the budget for 23, 24 or 22, 23.
Bill, I was going to mention something similar. I think it's when Tony says this year, meaning in the fiscal year 23, at least according to my calculations, that's when we dropped below what was then the 60% reserve threshold. So it's below 60% at the end of that year. So at that time, in the interim period, there should have been monitoring and somebody flagging that, hey, we're spending more money than is allowed under the reserve policies. Is that's what I took away from this.
Yeah, although the council did formally change the reserve policy, I believe, to 20%.
That was for this fiscal year.
This year.
But for 22, 23, the policy was 60%.
Oh, yeah,
of-
that's correct. Yeah.
And so the 3 million, the ending fund balance number was actually below the policy limit. And that's when conversation we should have been having conversations about addressing that.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, thanks.
Of course, we didn't understand that then. So.
Right.
Just, for the record and to remind members of the public, we now are tracking our
Right.
cash balances in such a way that we will know.
Yeah.
Other clarifications? Okay, we'll ask the public for comment and then we'll come back here for discussion of everything we've just heard. Any comments in the audience or online? Okay. Any further discussion on all of this substantively from the members? Obviously, the one thing we have to do is tie up. the
Yeah,
liability.
we'll
Yes.
correct the
Yeah.
general fund.
Um,
Or excuse me, I will correct the general.
There we go. And when, once again, you may have already mentioned this, when are we thinking we may be able to finalize the audit?
We'll look to have the audited statements coming to the finance committee next month,
Okay, so we can schedule a meeting maybe late next
late
month.
February. Yeah.
Yeah, Betsy has her hand up.
No.
And Betsy's question for those online was whether this would delay future audits.
Yeah, I did build in a couple extra months for this particular audit in the schedule. We're still on track for 23, 24. That needs to be put into the auditors by May. And then with 24, 25 and 25, 26, since we've pretty much corrected all the procedures and how we're entering items into the financial ledgers now, wrapping up those, getting those ready for trial balance to the auditors should not take as much or take as much time as these previous fiscal years have been. So, I mean, we're still eating spoon with a fork with 22, 23, but 24, 25, we're actually using a spoon. So.
Any further questions, comments on the 22, 23 interim financial? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. And I'll just conclude by commenting we're looking forward to the February meeting where we'll get to approve this and have the final report from our auditors. And then we can turn our sights to the next one and getting tantalizingly close to almost being up to date.
Yep.
Okay, interim financials.
So we're looking at
Mid-year budget.
mid-year budget. I'll be reviewing the beginning fund balance. We have some good news there. Fiscal year 24, 25 preliminary results. We have some good news there. 25, 26 6-month results. Some favorable good news there. Comparative analysis year to year. Some good news. So some good news with this budget update. Although the news is good, don't want to lose sight of the fact that we still have a structural deficit. I mean, it may extend the runway a little bit, but we're still not out of the woods with our long-term fiscal forecast. So the beginning fund balance, we've revised the number. We had an estimated proposed beginning fund balance of 2.2 million for beginning fiscal year 25, 26. However, with completed audits, the corrections and reclassifications that we've been doing for 22, 23, 23, 24 through 24, 25, we were able to increase the beginning fund balance from 2.2 million to 2.9 million. So that was and a lot of it had to do with, for 3 fiscal years, we had used, for our sheriff's contract, we were using the general fund, but we had budgeted for sharing those costs between public safety sales tax, the COPS grant fund, and then one year we used ARPA money to pay those. And so those had not been correctly classified in the financial ledgers for those fiscal years. So we've made those adjustments. And also other corrections that we've been making in regards to the payroll entries, which have been well documented. So we're able to increase the beginning fund balance of 700,000 from 2.2. And as I stated earlier, I mean, this is good news. However, it just prolongs, it just, pushes us out a couple more years if we don't have any revenue or other cost reductions moving forward. So the preliminary results of fiscal year 24, 25. If you recall, we adopted a budget at a $2.9 million surplus. But in November of 24, we came back saying that the beginning fund balance number was calculated incorrectly. So which resulted in council direction to balance the budget, which we did. So we reduced the budget to 7.479 million on budget for revenues and expenses.
So
Right.
I have a change in plans here.
Somebody
I just
online-
realized that I put down Portola Valley at 6 o'clock. In fact, it's 4 until 6.
Someone online, can you
It's
close your
4
mic?
until 6. Oh. So you can sort of,
Okay, well, let's see if I
you know,
can.
take it easy. I don't know.
Can
I'm,
we?
I've
mute
got
this?
the dinner
I
set.
can't.
yeah, that's fine. I can eat anytime, but I just saying, I
Linda, can you
realized that I
mute your
had
mic?
put the wrong number down on
Oh,
the
You can
calendar.
mute everything.
And as I was going through my email, I said, oh, 4 o'clock
oh,
instead of 6 o'clock.
so it's on right now.
It's on right now.
There we go.
Yeah, so I'm
Hello, please mute your microphone.
We should be able to force. Okay, great. Okay, thanks, everyone. Just so everyone can be reminded online, please keep your microphone on mute unless you're actually invited to speak. Thank you. Otherwise, it just comes through. Tony, please resume.
So preliminary results are fiscal year 24-25. We did end the year, we're projecting a surplus of almost $80,000. Revenues came in at 6.4% above budget, of almost 8 million, and expenses were 7.9 million and 5.4% above budget. So balanced, we had a slight surplus, and that stopped the bleeding from the 3 previous fiscal years. So good result. But again, we balanced the budget, but there was some significant sacrifices. We froze positions, did not hire vacant positions, relied heavily on consultants, and but did give us the time to kind of reset what it is that we need to do moving forward. So for the first 6 months, although we adopted a budget with a deficit of 215,000, revenues are at 45% of budget, 3.57 million. Expenses are at 3.64 million, which again, 45%. And we are currently running a deficit of 70,000. Now there are some, and again, this is from July through December. However, on some of the revenue items, like for example, sales tax, it's sales tax collected through November. Whereas property tax, it's through December, utility users tax, it's through, so there are some timing differences in regards to when we do receive the revenue. Business license tax is July through December. Franchise fees, not all the franchisees pay at the same time. For example, PG&E, they pay annually. Cal Water pays every other month. Green Waste is once a month. So there's a lot of time. So they're not paying on a consistent basis. So don't let we've only collected 20% of franchise fees fully. We're going to collect the rest in the second half of the fiscal year. Fines and forfeitures are way up. So, I mean, I guess the sheriff's deputies are going out and issuing traffic citations. Licenses and permits are tracking really well, almost half the year, 48%. And then charges for services are at 43%. And use of money and property, which is our investment incomes and some rental income, we're at a little bit over almost 51%. On the expense side, salaries are at 50%, and benefits are at 41%, and services are at 57%. But maintenance and contract, I mean, they're below half the percentage. So we are, or 50%, I should say. So we're still tracking with budget. We're still keeping with plan. However, as we go into the mid-year budget, we do still have vacant positions in our building and planning department And those services are being augmented by consultants. So there's going to be a trade-off there moving through the rest of the fiscal year. We did have a recruitment for a senior planner, and we did have a recruitment for a development technician, and both of those did not prove fruitful in our search. Sure.
You'd mentioned earlier that consultants was one of the ways we've kind of bridged the gap, and yeah, it looks like consultants is lower than it should be from a budget standpoint.
Yes. So, and that is entirely, I'm going to put the credit on Steve McCarris, our interim building and planning director, who came in and basically reviewed all the contracts. We took the contracts to council in November and just really, really defined the roles that they're playing, what they're responsible for, what the town's responsible for. And so we're keeping a track on what it is that they're doing now that we have an interim, but we also have hired a permanent building and planning director as well. So we now have somebody keeping an eye on that activity.
Tony, did you say the property tax revenue was at 50%? That you had collected through December?
It's 48%
Right. No,
against the budget.
and that includes through December?
That includes through December. We received our first advance in September or December. It was about 1.6 million.
Be worried? That's a big number.
It's 50% it's 48% of the fiscal year.
It's not 50. No, we were not worried.
Well, no, part of it is the VLF. There's a shortfall, and the state of California did not fund the shortfall or the fully funded. They 66%. They only funded 66% of the shortfall for the 25-26 budget year. And I'll go into that a little bit later in regards to the mid-year budget, but I'm not worried about the property tax.
And let's try to keep on clarifying questions now. And then we'll hear from, once he gets through the presentation, we'll hear from the public, and then so write down and save these thoughts.
Yeah. And just further clarification on property tax, I forecasted a 4% increase for property tax. The final calculation was a 5.3 increase. So we're looking good. And then we also had the house that sold for over 50 million. So that really helped in the transfer tax area.
Could I ask a question on the sheriff's contract? Earlier, you said that the different funds were paying for the
Yes.
sheriff's contract. And in your mid-year budget discussion, you said sheriff's contract reduced by 171,000.
Not there yet. I'm getting there.
Okay, I'll wait.
So this slide, the year-to-year comparative analysis, I'm really proud for this one. This is actually an apples to apples comparison of revenues from one year to the next, minus any accruals or mispostings. We really went through and fleshed out any errors for, so 24-25, that's actually gross revenue. In 25-26, it's gross revenue. And the same thing with on the expense side. So with the fiscal year 26, revenue is up 62,000, almost 2%. And that is with a significant decrease in VLF. For 26, we did not receive what we should have in the first half. So even with that, we're still running a surplus and we're only 3% down in property taxes, but we'll make that up in the second half of the year. But as you can see with fines and forfeitures, we're way over. But it's a very small amount of the total budget. Licenses and permits are up 93%. That is a bit of an anomaly. Back in July and August and September of 24, we had a sudden departure in the building and planning department, and building and permits were not being issued. It was pretty much a meltdown So there was almost a suspension of activity for a few months. So that's kind of reflected in the revenue for 24, 25. And then on the expense side, we're $235,000 below. And most of it is in salaries. And our contract costs is basically the sheriff's, Woodside Fire Protection, dispatch services, and town attorney. And you can see the use of consultants were down 63,000 from the previous year, or almost 20%. And I did make one accrual for the expense side. It was the sheriff's invoice. We didn't receive that until January, but it was for July through December services. And if I did not include it, this slide would be way out of whack. Your total expenses would be almost $960,000 less. So it wasn't going to show a true picture. So for revenue, we're up almost 2%, and for expenses, we're down 6% from the previous year. So looking at the mid-year budget overview, this was the budget that was adopted. Again, deficit of $215,000. Post-adoption, the sheriff contract has been reduced by $172,000. They reduced an FTE allocation on one of the administrative positions, and then also took out, there was an equipment charge of about $45,000. So they reduced it $172,000 for fiscal year 25-26. But also remember that this is the last year of the credits that we've received from the county. So next year's budget, 26-27, I'm assuming a $300,000 increase in the sheriff's contract for the general fund alone. There's going to be no change for public safety sales tax or the COPS grant because we only receive a limited amount of funding for those. So we can't really push more costs towards those funds. But the $211,000 expires this year. So next year we already are up $211,000 plus whatever increases they're going to build in for next year. And we've also been notified that they are now entering into labor negotiations with their deputy association. So 300,000 is conservative, but it may be more than that depending on how things flesh out there. In regards to the VLF shortfall, since the state did not fund the full shortfall as they've done in the past, San Mateo County has sued the state of California. All the cities and towns in the county have joined with them. Also, another county has joined as well. It's up in North Bay area. So we're all going to get charged a proportionate share. We're the smallest, so we're going to have a very small cost towards this. But if successful, then we'll get our full VLF shortfall. And the thing about the VLF shortfall is I don't budget it. I only budget what the county tells us that they have available. And then the shortfall amount, I don't budget. So if we do get the shortfall, it's actually additional revenue for us. Revenue enhancements, we're going to need additional appropriations for any revenue enhancement campaign, materials, consultants. Looking at the town attorney, we're starting to move some of her time towards other funds. For example, with open space, there was 2 appraisals done for potential acquisitions. So we have appraisal costs and legal review for those acquisitions. Those are being moved to the open space fund. In regards to the housing element, any of the affordable housing components, we have 2 nonprofits that will be implementing some affordable housing programs. Those will be charged to the Affordable Housing Fund. Also, any time for the town attorney with legal review as well. Revenue enhancement, that will be a general fund expense. And then we also have the Valley Oak Trail Bridges, which is a CIP project. The scope of that project has completely changed since the adoption of the budget. We're going to be required to do a survey of the area. And this also is taking up some of the town attorney's time as well. But that's a capital project. So we'll be looking at using capital project funds for that. And then with building and planning, we're going to be looking to fully implement a permitting system and GIS upgrades. Also dealing with staffing vacancies and the use of consultants, which is an ongoing conversation within the organization, balancing that. But these are some of the items that have been identified post-adoption that we'll be looking to address with the mid-year budget. And so looking at the capital improvement plan, one item is the storm drain assessment. We budgeted $50,000 for this. However, some initial quotes have exceeded the budget. So we'll probably defer this project to 26-27. The Valley Oak Trail bridges, again, scope revision, will require additional general fund appropriation for survey and legal review. Court resurfacing. This is the town courts here, where pickleball and tennis is played. Scope revision, again, may require park and loop funds or donation to the PV fund. And then we have the Ford Field bathroom, looking at kind of determine how much it's actually going to cost to build the bathroom. We do have a grant, but we just don't know how much it's going to cost to put this plan or to put the bathroom in place. So we're looking at getting quotes for a feasibility study. And this could either be paid for out of Park and Lou or general fund capital. We'll be asking for council direction on this, specifically the use of Park and Lou funds, whether it's for the court resurfacing or we can do donations through PV fund. But those are some of the conversations we're having in regards to the capital improvement plan. And then, as I kind of hinted earlier, some of our other funds, we have a safety element update as well. So we're going to need some additional appropriation for the town geologist in case for review. And the housing element, and specifically the affordable housing component, talked about using consultants for program implementation and legal review for the town attorney. And then open space appraisals for 2 potential acquisition sites plus legal review. And then on the risk management side, we have 2 liability claims. There's an SIR, which is kind of our deductible. It's $25,000 per claim. So we may have to budget that as well. We're still looking at further fleshing out of those as well.
Excuse me, Tony.
Yep.
Is the town geologist a consultant?
Yes. Yeah, he mostly does work for project applicants, but he's done some work for the geology committee, and but it's very, very little town work that he does. But for this instance, it's the safety element. He'll be looking into that. So that concludes my report. I turn it back to the Finance Committee for questions.
Thanks. Very nice report, and I'd just like to thank you for a great job. Things have been stabilized, at least pending the sheriff changing things. So at this moment, any more clarifying questions about what you've just heard, and then we'll go to the public for comments and then discussion. Okay.
I've got a small number. So this is going back to the fiscal year 24-25. When we look at the budget versus actual on the revenue side, there are 5 line items that are more than 100,000 and really constitute the bulk of the change. I wonder if we just go through them quickly. One is a deficit of over 400,000 of less property taxes than what we had been budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
But there's almost, not quite, but there's almost a corresponding amount of more VLF than property taxes. So presumably there's some kind of linkage. Is that right?
Well, when it comes to budget line items, I budget to the bottom line. But it's, it's how it comes through and how it's identified from the county. So it's either secured or it's unsecured, or it's VLF.
just looking at
Yeah.
the secured property taxes, which were 404,000 less than what we had budgeted. So this goes a bit to Michelle's question on the first half of this year, where it really, it's more a question around, well, how, is that 3.2 million of property taxes, which is our single biggest revenue source, but we were deficient by 400,000. Like, what did we learn from that budget versus actual to apply today? But there may be some kind of weird offset because we're some kind of 7% tax equalization. There may be an equalization to VLF that may not make that directly applicable. But that's conjecture on my part.
Right. So that number is the budget number is driven by the assessment letter we get from the assessor's office, what our levy is. And it says we get so much unsecured, Hopter, and unitary. Only the secured portion of is under the teeter plan, which is we get what is assessed. The rest are based on what is collected. So it could very well be there's late collections and we'll receive that in the next fiscal year. Or it's, basically it's based on collections for those amounts.
And then moving on to the next two biggest items, which are both user utility taxes, which in this particular fiscal year, 2025, there were two user utility taxes, that of energy and water, both of which were over 100,000 to the positive of actual versus budget, but when we compare that to the first 6 halves of this year, it were actually a bit lower. So right now, the user utility tax is only 43% of the budget. So it's a bit inconsistent to me anyways, that we would have been over on the fiscal year ended 2025, but at least this year to date be under. I would have thought that this would happen much more regularly. I get on the property taxes that it's much more episodic twice a year, but user utility taxes I thought would have been more steady over the course of the year because it's assessed every month, but I may not understand that correctly.
So the UUT number was based on previous year's historical average. However, there were significant timing differences between when it was being posted. So the utility users tax numbers in the budget were based on estimates, not necessarily actual, because the timing is, so as we move forward in budgeting for now fiscal years or future years, it's going to be more consistent.
I'm just wondering whether water usage and seasonal patterns might contribute.
That also could play a role in it too, but a lot of it is the timing of when the payments were being received and posted and truing up all that information.
And just for the sake of completeness, to finish those those items that are over $100,000 different to the deposit. One is the town planning fees. We had budgeted 20,000, but we got 122,000. I'm just wondering what accounted for that.
So the town planning fees in some instances were not being assessed, in some instances were, and a lot of it had to do with staff turnover. And so, yeah. But we're, as part of the fee study, we're looking to tighten that up.
Thanks. I think that actually that covers me. Thank you.
Okay, great. Why don't we,
Could I follow up on?
if it's
Question.
clarifying, if it's discussive, we should go to the public.
Okay, I'll wait.
Anyone here in the room or online care to weigh in on the mid-year budget review? We have Betsy here in the room.
I think the mic is on. Hello, committee, town staff. Betsy Morgan Thaler speaking as chair of the Open Space Committee this afternoon. My aim and my hope is to align constructively with all that you collectively, town finance, meaning our staff, the finance committee and the town council, are doing to address and create a path out of our fiscal straits that have fallen so heavily on the general fund. What does that have to do with the Open Space Fund? That's the question and reason why I'm speaking. You have a discussion item 5C, number 7, also shown in Tony's last slide, other funds, that conditionally proposes making additional open space appropriations available for appraisals and legal review of 2 potential land acquisitions. So the council approved open space charter specifically points to our stewardship duty, ours, the open space stewardship duty, to provide financial oversight for the Open Space Fund. So prior to vetting of potential acquisitions with the Open Space Committee, including our buy-in, it's respectful to observe that preliminary step. At this juncture, Finance Committee engagement on the prospective open space acquisitions, including related Open Space Fund appropriations, seems before this committee to be a bit premature. We meet next week. Our door is open. Finance Committee and town staff is warmly invited to confer with us, just as you all did last March, around a potential open space acquisition, and our motion then to approve the expenses to cover an appraisal on Skyline Boulevard. The Open Space Committee does see an opportunity for future discussions and collaboration with members of the Finance Committee to strengthen and simplify Open Space Fund oversight. Most ideally, from our perspective anyway, through creation of a separate account. We'd really like to talk to you about that. Thank you all for your thoughtful consideration about this and other matters before you.
Thanks, Betsy. I just want to clarify that Finance Committee is not considering anything to do with open space. We're just hearing the mid-year budget review.
This is just for informational purposes.
Oh, I thought I heard you talk about 2 potential acquisitions.
One of them is actually the Skyline property.
Well, that was previously approved, so that's
Right,
not
but
a-
it wasn't in this year's budget. It was in last year's budget. We didn't carry it over because the appraisal wasn't done. We didn't know when the appraisal was being done, but the appraisal was done.
All right, so that
So,
clarifies one of the
Yeah,
2
and
then.
the other one was, there was a second appraisal done, and I'm drawing a blank on. No, there was another, I'll get back to you on that one, but yeah.
Please.
Yeah, but
I
I
will.
just want to be clear, the Finance Committee, we're not looking into anything to do with open space. We're just hearing a report
Right.
on the
I'm not
budget, the
asking for
amount of money
Finance
coming
Committee
in and
direction.
out of the various funds, right?
I'm just kind of setting the table for what the conversation is going to be for mid-year budget with the council.
Okay, great. That's comments in the room. We have someone with a hand up. Karen Askey, please talk to us.
Oh, whoops.
There you go.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can now. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Hello. I have a question related to its line called parking lot and field rentals. And in 24-25, I noticed that our budget was 60,000, but our actuals were 104,000. And so the question there, is that related to the Rosati's starting to rent the Ford Field parking, that increase?
Yes.
And then that ties, okay, great. And then that ties to my next question with respect to appraisals. I know we're in the process of the negotiation for the Rosati's lot. And is it possible to get that done within this fiscal year and add that extra revenue? I mean, I guess I should ask, what's the timing of all that? I can't hear anything
Yeah,
if
we're-
someone's speaking.
Council has had a closed session already on Rosati's Field. And we are in the process of having continuing conversations with the owners over the next few months. But yeah, there should be some resolution, hopefully before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. And any idea what that amount might be, or is that a secret right now?
Right now, that is confidential.
All right, thank you.
Other comments from online?
Hey, George, it's Chris Rittler.
Yeah, hi, Chris.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I simply wanted to thank Tony and the finance team for doing such a nice job. And on this review and
Did we lose him?
Is that it?
I think we lost him.
I think we may have lost you, Chris. You were saying something about a nice job and then faded out.
sorry, George, I might have cut out there.
You're back.
All right. Anyway, I wanted to make it clear. I really appreciate the great work that Tony and the team did there. Fantastic. I didn't have any clarifying questions. I think everybody asked them already, and I'm going to have to sign off now. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for weighing in. And I think I speak for everyone here that we also really appreciate you and the work you've done on this. And it's really nice to have stanched the bleeding, so to speak, from a financial standpoint, and actually being able to accurately measure where we are, which is great.
I do believe we're turning a corner.
Yeah.
So
Great. Anyone else online who wants to weigh in before we bring it back to the committee? Seeing no one, back for discussion now. Ken.
Yes. So I noticed that under property tax revenue, we list all the accounts that go into that. And it seemed to me it was very interesting to see that the real property transfer tax that we currently collect, which is 55 cents per $1,000, brought in 2025, $206,000. Now, given that the town may be in the future voting on increasing that amount, it seemed to me that upgrading real property transfer taxes from an element of property taxes, which it really is not, it's a transfer tax, not a property tax, would be a wise idea for citizens who may be looking at statements and could see that we already pay a transfer tax or already receive a transfer tax, and that it was a fair amount of money, even at 55 cents per $1,000. And so I'd like to just recommend that we consider upgrading this from a sub-account of property taxes to something just like the sales and use tax is, so that everyone could see it as a source of revenue. Because the actual value of $206,000 that we 55 cents at $6 would bring in $2.2 million last year. So I think that would be something that would be beneficial for the town residents to understand, those who look at the statements. So that's just a comment. A question I have goes back to your beginning balances that you show for what I believe are just the fund reserves, the committed and uncommitted or assigned values. We have very accurate numbers there for like OPEB and for pensions. How are they calculated? Are these, did we get this from CalPERS, or is this something that is a result of divided them in the past?
Those numbers were adopted by council under GASB 54. And they were in the audited financial statements, but now since in 22, 23, since we've gone below those numbers or those numbers that were identified, we're gonna have to reevaluate them.
So they
But-
were adopted by the council
Yeah, when,
recently? Is that what you're saying?
no, they were adopted prior to 22-23.
Okay, I'm missing something, because in the past, we used to recommend to the council what to adopt, and we never used such accurate numbers with 6 digits of.
Right, well, the numbers, if you look at the budget presentations from those numbers never changed. Those numbers are incorrect because the fund balance reserve was actually less than what was being presented, which is what started this whole process. So we have not come back to council saying this is assigned, this is spendable, but it's adjusted in the audited financial statements. But part of the budget process when we adopt a budget is here's what we recommend to be the reserve limits based on these different categories.
Okay, so we do get a report from like CalPERS and something from CalPERS on OPEB as well.
Right.
Do we adjust these numbers based on what they tell us we need to?
Well, we don't have, yes, those numbers would be adjusted, yes. But
So-
we have not formally come to council saying these are the numbers for 24-25 or 22-23 or 23-24.
Okay, so there's no doubt a discrepancy between what documentation we have as to what our liability is under OPEB or pensions.
It's whatever the numbers in the audited financial statements, that's the number, because that's based on the valuations for those fiscal years.
Okay, so in the notes section of
Yeah.
those statements, there's that
Yeah.
information
Mhm.
presented.
Mhm.
Thank
Yes.
you.
We haven't adjusted those balances in years, right?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, okay, so that was like
That was the issue. It's
years,
the presentation, the numbers were incorrect.
right, it's from like 5 years.
Well,
right?
it's, yeah, it goes back way before me.
And the footnotes for prior years are somewhat irrelevant because it's 2 or 3
No, the
years old.
footnotes in the audited financial statements are correct. It's
Right.
what was being presented in the budget.
At that time. Well,
Yeah.
I know, but since we're so far behind, we don't really know
Right.
what fiscal year like 25 would be.
Right.
And you're saying you think on average the balances have come down, the liabilities have
Well,
come
yeah,
down?
we're at 2.9 million. We had assigned 3.4 million in the budget document for capital replacement and OPEB liability. And the OPEB liability numbers changed because now we have a trust for where we're holding assets towards the OPEB liability. So yeah, we do need to go through and adjust those numbers for the budget.
But overall, because the stock market's been doing really well, your best guess is as of fiscal year 25, where the liability is less than we've reserved, or you don't really know?
Well, there's other factors. There's folks who are retired. And, so for example, we only have 4 employees that are still considered classic. And the other 8 or 9 employees are PEPRA. And the PEPRA liability is significantly less than the classic liability, but the classic liability does go up exponentially. And now that we have fewer employees to contribute against the liability, that there's some adjustments that still need to be made, that we're actually underfunding on an ongoing basis. But I don't have the 24-25 number. I haven't looked at it yet.
So let me jump in on that just so I don't get confused about it. We have a 115 trust, which we're using to fund OPEB liability.
Right.
The dollar value of that trust, which is invested in a diversified portfolio, is reported at least annually
Mhm.
to us. We know what that number is, correct?
Yes.
What is the last number we know on that, and what was the effective date of it?
It's about 600,000, a little bit below. But the liability is around the same dollar amount.
Not the
So
liability, just the dollar value of what we hold in the
it's
trust.
about 600,000.
About 600,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So the liability gets changed with actuarial assumptions and discount rates and everything else. But I seem to remember that when we first did a 115 trust, which was about 8 or 9 years ago, we initially funded it with about $820,000 and would have grown since then. But there would be disbursements, not every year, but based on changes in the population. So the way we got down to 600,000 now comes from.
Well, I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Are we talking about pensions or are we talking about OPEB?
OPEB, just OPEB.
Okay, the OPEB, we put in like 500,000 back in 21, 22.
An additional 500, because I know there was over 800.
No, we set up the trust in 21, 22.
So there was never a contribution before that.
If it was probably towards pensions.
I think it was. I think we had it towards pensions earlier, and then OPEB was the new thing in 21.
So it's a different pot. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, and there was a swing in the pension liability, like in 21, 22. There was actually a negative liability because we had $1 million deferred outflow. So so actually the OPEB liability and they were actually assets, OPEB asset and pension asset, which is rare.
Hey, Tony, you mentioned the study. I'm just curious. I don't think I heard any update on timing.
We're looking at May. And they're currently going through time estimates for each function.
Just out of further curiosity, when were we originally, I don't know if promise is the right word, but expecting to receive that? Has it taken a lot longer?
Yeah, I had to pretty much abandon it when we had to go with the balanced budget. We were doing the balanced budget. So my focus was redirected.
Tony, we haven't talked about this in a while, but there's a consultant was hired to look at our fees and service fees that we charge people. And
That's what we were just talking about.
missed that.
Yeah, it's Matrix Consulting. It was supposed to be done in 24, 25. We had November where we had to revise, and we also had some turnover at the top level that refocused my direction in other areas, and the fee schedule had to be put on the back burner.
So the budgeting that we do will be based on the existing fees?
Well, this year for 25, 26, yes, but for next fiscal year, we'll have revised numbers with the fee study. And that'll be for charges for services, so licenses and permits and basically building and planning is where most of these fees are going to be amended.
Okay. Long time.
I can only do so much. Nope.
Other questions, comments on the mid-year budget review? Okay, well, I think we'll close out that item. Thank you. This is really great work. I know we've said it several times, but it's very difficult to go from deficit spending to balanced budget to a slight surplus. And I know our challenges aren't over. We still have audits to get through. We still have public safety to fund in a continuing cost inflationary environment. So we'll do that. Does anyone have any future topics to suggest for our next meeting?
I'd like to know if there's a timeline for the whole revenue enhancement. It seems like when we started this, November of 26 was 2 years away, and now it's 10 months. Is there a timeline of actual? Is it published somewhere? I just have never seen it.
Everything has to be into the county before August 1st.
Right. I know.
I don't know how granular it is. I have to go look, so I
Well, like I know if we go to Charter City, 2 approvals or something to, and then we have to decide how much the tax should be if assuming that's the decision. I mean, I don't even know where the whole revenue enhancement decision is. So, or the next meeting, maybe, that's.
Judith, can we ask you to go to a microphone? People online are texting me. Judith is speaking, and Judith Haskell, and she'll walk to a microphone.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of work gone into looking at timelines and backfilling from where we need to be for a potential submission of a proposal for the ballot to where we are now. There's a lot of work going into that, and I can get you information that's already been presented to the council, and we can circulate that. But we're not going to have anything, I don't know, and I'm not sure we can tell you when it's going to be ripe for a discussion before the council or for you. That's just something that we have to determine.
Yeah, just informational. I mean,
Yeah,
'cause like I
yeah.
know it's a lot sooner than we think at the moment now.
No, it's important for everyone to have a visibility, but let me provide links and you could choose to do what you will with them to the information that we've already got, because it can be challenging to find it. So we can make that a little more accessible, and then more material developments of timelines will come. But today I can't tell you what they are.
And I don't know if it's, can I ask Judith a question about that? And maybe it's for our group as well. What role from here on does our group, either individually or as a body, want to make available to the council before they make a final decision on what type of tax measure it's going to be and the dollar amount and all that? Is there anything that the council specifically would like us to do as a group or individually? Is there anything we want to do as a group or individually, regardless of what the council wants from us?
Well, I don't speak for the council because we need to make a recommendation for your role. So that's something to come.
A specific recommendation on a specific tax measure? Is that what you just said?
Well, no, I mean, you're asking what does the council expect of you? We need to have the council have that discussion in order to inform you. So I can't speak to that today is all I'm saying. But if if in going back and looking at timelines that we've got, there's something in there, we can get you whatever has been discussed. But right now, I don't know the specific timeline.
Okay, so Judith, what I can do is follow up with you on the links and making sure everyone gets what we've got. And then I think a request from us would just be for the town council to consider what, if anything, they want to hear from us.
I could step back.
Great.
Sure.
George, this is obvious, but I think a topic for the next meeting is a review of the actual audited or draft audited statements for the fiscal year 2023 for the committee's review and recommendation to the town council for acceptance.
Yeah, thanks. And that is the plan. And so everyone knows we're currently expecting next meeting late February, and assuming everything comes together on the audit, and I'll keep in touch with everyone on that.
And then following up on that, I would ask, well, I'm heartened to hear Tony's timeline sound that it's currently stable, but it would be good to get an update at that time, having gotten the next audit completed. It would be good to have a refresh on what is the timeline there forward to get audits to hopefully get up to date.
Yep, that sounds good. Okay, we will do that. Anything else? Okay, that brings us to adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Favor? Aye. Okay, we're adjourned at 5:26. Thank you, everyone.